Welcome to Energy Careers, a segment of the Energy Conversations podcast dedicated to exploring opportunities in the dynamic world of the energy sector. For 13 years, I've had the privilege of navigating this sector, and it has significantly shaped my professional and entrepreneurial journey. Join me as we uncover exciting pathways for those interested in making their mark in this exciting sector. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Energy Careers segment, a segment of the Energy Conversations podcast, where we spotlight the diverse career opportunities that are available within the energy sector and hear from professionals across various disciplines. Whether you are just starting out or looking to transition into the energy sector, this segment is designed to provide you with valuable insights and guidance. Today, we will be following the energy journeys of Maloba G Tshehla, Gracia Munganga, Phemelo Mitchell, Tumi Mphahlele, and Monde Soni. I'd like to begin by starting with Monde. Monde, if you could just share about what your own energy journey has been. How did you get involved in the energy sector? What did you study, and what has been your career path up until this point?
Okay, thank you, Thokozile. So my career started at the university where I chose electrical or BSc electrical engineering as my junior degree. I think it happened by chance because I happened to get the scholarship, and I had also good marks from the high school level. And then later on, I started as a lecturer, which was after finishing my BSc degree. Started as a lecturer and a researcher in high voltage engineering. And then later on, and I think this was now in 2008, I joined Eskom Generation as a generation system engineer, dealing with plant maintenance, plant fix, new modifications, etc. And I think after that, I found myself where I am, which was about 15 years ago, where now I'm a power systems engineer. I joined distribution. And in distribution, what I do is to do power systems studies. When there is new technology that must be integrated to the grid, I must ensure that I understand all the pros and cons. If it has something good to offer, then I must say that it has something good to offer. But if it has shortfalls, I must also point out those shortfalls to ensure that the grid remains stable. So I can say basically having a focused mindset and being able to be the only one or being by yourself, because the career in engineering is actually can really get lonely at times. And I would say don't have too much alcohol, because that's what happens in electrical engineering. Try have it, but just not too much of it, because as you start to reach your 40s, then now you'll start to have some problems that come out of that. So but it's all about focus. Make sure you are the best at what you do. You need to go an extra mile. The 8 working hours is always not sufficient if you want to really be good at what you do. And then on top of what I do as a 9 to 5, then I also give back via the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, which is the SAIEE. And this is a voluntary organization where we give back to students, we give back to the general community in the electrical engineering space. We give bursaries as well. We offer mentorship and for engineers that are at work, and also for those aspiring at the university level. And we also just promote the career, the electrical engineering career, and that is very close to my heart.
Thank you very much for that, Monde. Very passionate about the work that you do, and also thank you for the advice that you've shared. It's almost like you've you've gone back in time and are able to tell younger you what is it that you would have potentially done differently. But again, thank you for sharing. So sharing of your journey, and also for your continued passion for the profession, because I think what's so important in all industry is that wherever you are on that chain or on that ladder, is you need to continually pull back. So as you're climbing forward, I think, there's that saying, lift as you rise, and it's quite beautiful to see. Thank you very much for that, Monde. Gracia, I'd like to ask you about your energy journey. What did you study? How did you get involved in the energy sector, and what has been your career path up until this point?
Thanks a lot, Tokozile, and also thank you, Monde, for sharing your story. It's always good to hear other people's stories, So I'll add to reflecting back. I'm a trained chemical engineer, so I studied chemical engineering, and I would say that my path into the energy sector was not a straightforward one, unlike Monde, who studied electrical engineering, and it's almost, a given. Let me put it this way. I then did a master's in I'll call it biogas and waste management. And I would say that's probably my first introduction to a version of the energy sector through biogas. So at the time, there was a lot of, let's say, optimism about biogas as a technology to help address some of Africa's challenges, sanitation, energy, and also some creating, let's say, economic opportunities. The sector on its own has never bloomed, I will call it. There are successful examples of projects here and there, but there was an expectation that it would be a sector that, continuously sustain growth, and that has not been the case due to various reasons. My work in biogas, I think I would call it the first kind of breakthrough I had was an internship with a company called Green Cape at the time. Green Cape was set up to position the province as a preferred investment of clean energy investment. It was just before the start of the REAP project, so it felt like a very nice role, where our role was really just be nice to industry, understand what they want to see, what are the challenges, how can government respond to that. And it was a blessing in disguise, because my very shy self was forced to talk to people that I didn't know as a young engineer out of university with a bit of a broken English as well. And so that helped me build a network in the industry. I'll always go back to saying that Green Cape was was a breakthrough in that sense. I will skip a few years, but essentially I've done a few roles. I left Green Cape, joined an engineering company that was building biogas plant and was supporting business development and playing the liaison role on site. So site work was exciting, but also I knew that I am not someone that will be working on site for the rest of my life. I had the opportunity to join an incubator, and we were supporting startups in the clean energy space. And that was probably what exposed me to, let's say, renewable energy as a sector, as an industry, because 60% of the companies we were working with were in either with solar PV or a version of a component to support the industry. So that's kind of what exposed me there. And then my last role before this one, I ended up working for a think tank that helped, let's say, provide strategies for deploying innovation funds for addressing rural electrification challenges. It was mainly outside of South Africa, but in South Africa, the project was around energy efficiency of public buildings and how to roll out an efficient procurement process. And the last one is probably the most exciting of my role. I joined a systems integrator manufacturer. So when Tumi was saying I'm dealing with fire to put out today, I understand that no day was the same. You always had either clients that are shouting or projects that are not working, and you have to balance your time between business development, acquiring new clients, supporting the team, making sure that they are set up to essentially optimize the skills they bring to the team. So that's how I got hands-on experience. We were doing relatively small systems, solar PV and battery storage systems, but a few projects in South Africa. The rest of it was outside. So coming back to, I think, on our previous conversation, the South African industry has lots of miles to go, but there are exports out of, South African companies supporting energy access on the rest of the continent, Southern Africa, but I've also seen some batteries in East Africa and in West Africa as well. So yeah, I'd say this is my journey. If I was to give an advice over and above what Monde has said, so he spoke about focus, I'd say in my experience, I credit the people that somehow ended up giving me opening the door for me. So yes, most people, there are gatekeepers, but my experience has been that most people are actually willing to help the moment that you approach them and ask for help. So I think don't be an island. Success, for me, success is never something that you achieve on your own. You always have support. If it's not of your mother that doesn't understand engineering, but spends the day in church to pray about your exam, your physics exam, if it's not your friend providing support and sharing past papers, it will be someone else that has gone through it. So the power of networks, I think, as you move away from university, it's no longer about the marks that you have. It's about your ability to show up. It's about the networks that you have. It's about how quickly you respond to challenges. And so doing that alone is very difficult. What I find I value most is community, and thank you for creating this platform, Thokozile. So over to you.
Thank you for that, Gracia, and I love also what you're saying in terms of networking, because I think it's so important. Whether you come from like the foregone conclusion, like somebody like Monde, that you are obviously going to be in the energy sector because he studied electrical engineering, or like some of us you've taken different paths. What does help in that journey, and I can imagine for you as well, the jobs you've been able to get and the projects you've been able to get are really tied to being able to have cultivated the network that you have.
100%.
And I think it's such an important thing. I mean, I'm privileged and blessed to say that I can count you in my network, and
same
that,
here.
and that just speaks to the power of those networks, and that's how you really get through this industry, and it is about people at the end of the day. As much as it's technical, it really is about the people. Tumi, I wanna bring you in here and hear about your energy journey. How did you get involved in the energy sector? What did you study, and what has been your career path up until this point? And yes, and from you as well, what advice would you give to younger you, or to a young person, or anybody looking to make a career in the energy sector?
I didn't join the industry as a professional from the word go. So I studied chemistry. I majored in chemistry many years ago, and at the time I was a Sasol bursary holder. So I went and worked in Sasol. I was working as a scientist in a lab. I was in what was then called fuel research, and we were looking at formulating additives that are used in vehicles and all of that. It was quite an interesting type of work, but it was for scientists, and I had the option to go and study further and get all the way to PhD, but I didn't know that I had that interest. But coincidentally, I had almost gone full circle. So I left at the time. At the time, there was also a big buzz around information technology, and I got quite interested in IT. I went and did some part-time studies, information systems 1 and 2 and 3, and computer science 1 and 2 part-time. And I went out and became a business analyst once I'd worked off my bursary at Sasol. So, and that started almost my kind of career where I would always be evolving. So from scientist in the lab to business analyst. At some point, I was also a consultant, management consulting, and I was a project manager in IT, and eventually all of these almost got to a point where I was able to have a good understanding of how it is to run a business. But that would have been still theoretical. So I out of that, I also completed a master's in business, and I was in corporate strategy, I've done a number of I've worked in a DFI. So I'm one of those who with a very diverse kind of experience. But I find that very useful when you start running a business, because there you have to learn a few things. You have to know business processes, and then you have to know ICT, and then you have to know people issues. So in a way, to get involved in the energy industry as an entrepreneur, you need to know about energy. That helps. But it's just being also fairly versatile. I'm one of those that also have a what we call a PV green card certified individual. I went and learned how to install solar panels and how to size systems and things like that. So fairly versatile. And I appreciate the guys that would have gone through and done energy through and through. The skills are a lot deeper. But anyone who is thinking that they could be lost and that they probably cannot fit in could look to my kind of experience, where it has really been varied. But I'm still here and I'm still picking up everything that I need to pick up.
Thank you very much for that. And I like what you're saying, because, our journeys are not always going to be linear, and it's not always going to start this way and end this way. And I think perhaps what it is about, journeys like yourselves is that it does become an encouragement for anybody, whether you're a young person or whether you are, seasoned in whatever sector that you happen to be involved in. It is that beautiful reminder that it is okay, it's okay to not be clear on certain things at every single point of your career. The point is to keep moving. And the point is, when you are there, to pick up the skill that season is calling on you to pick up, because like you said, everything along your journey is now, has culminated to you becoming the leader that you are for your business. So thank you very much for that. Next, I would like to ask Maloba if you can share just briefly about your energy journey. What did you study? How did you get involved in the energy sector? And what advice would you give to any young person or yourself, younger version of you who was just beginning their journey in the South African energy sector?
All right, thanks, Agozile. That's probably one of the things I enjoy talking about the most. So my introduction into let's call it the sustainability space, because I feel like that's the umbrella within which I work. Started in middle of high school. Basically, I saw a documentary about global warming. It was quite dramatic. Cape Town was underwater. Well, visually, that's what they visualized. New York was underwater because of sort of the effects of climate change and extreme weather conditions and rising sea levels. And in the documentary, one of the things they attributed, sort of the climate change and greenhouse gas emissions to was vehicles, and sort of the vehicles we had on the road and the emissions from vehicles. And this was before sort of catalytic converters became a thing. And I have a passion for vehicles, not in the sense of sort of, street racing, drag racing and all of that, but I just like the engineering behind a combustion engine and a car. Really fascinates me. So I thought, okay, well, my responsibility is then to work in the petrochemical industry, effectively to make clean petrol. That's how I got into it. So I then decided to study chemical engineering, which I did at UCT. And about in third year, I realized something called Javan's paradox, which is the more efficiently we produce something, the more our consumption increases, because it's cheaper to use that same thing. And so, and that's when basically the introduction to renewable energy came in as a technology option, which was carbon free, clean in that sense. And I then decided to explore that, but I didn't want to do it technically. As I said, it was chemical engineering, so I didn't really want to go into electrical or mechanical engineering, where, sort of the natural course if you're looking at either PV or wind technology at that time. And I wasn't a civil engineer, so I wasn't going into hydro. And I had a decision tree at that point in final year, basically to either go technical or to do more an economics and philosophy based study. So my postgrad is in sustainable development. So I did sustainable development with a focus on renewable energy and renewable energy policy. And that basically launched my trajectory into sustainable development, right? So which is broader than just energy and clean energy, but sustainable development. And that's where for me, the passion around how does Africa develop in a sustainable way, sort of still keeping the greenhouse gas and climate change agenda in the back of my head, but in a way that is just, right? Like African economies to actually thrive, African people to find themselves in this new economy paradigm. And that led me into my first job at Green Cape, where I was a sector manager for renewable energy. Eventually, I went into the innovation hub, where I worked with clean tech companies that were being incubated. And fast forward to now, where I work with renewable energy companies, specifically looking at their economic development aspects. So it's been a bit of a very roundabout journey to where I am. So people are often surprised that I studied chemical engineering and I'm consulting in what seems like a social science, but it all works out somehow. And I think jumping from that to what I would advise, maybe not my younger self, because to be honest, I find it, I think it's one of my blessings. I'm very happy with where I am. So I'd probably tell the guy, just keep at it. Just keep at it. But what I'd say to a younger person is, and I say to even older people who my age mates and others who are like, you really are passionate about what you do, would be find the thing that you're really passionate about contributing to, and then apply what you are good at, whether it's science, whether it's maths, whether it's philosophy, whether it's politics, whether it's economics, whether it's accounting, whether it's environmental sort of studies, and apply that to this thing that you're involved in, because that's what the renewable energy industry for me really means. It's not a technical field. You yourself are a lawyer in that space. There are others who are economists in this space. There are others who are actuaries. There are others who are sociologists, very well suited and needed for this space. So that would be my advice. Find the thing you are interested in contributing meaningfully to, and then apply what you're good at in that space. And to be honest, we're in the age of creating our own careers. And so a path will emerge for you. That's what I'd say.
Thank you very much for that, Maloba. Very interesting journey, and again, somebody who's very passionate about the sector, and it's really it's really evident in terms of the work that you've done, and how you continue to give back into the industry. And I'd like to close off this episode of Energy Careers with just asking Phemelo, if you could share a bit about your energy journey. What did you study? How did you get involved in the sector, and what has been your career path up until this point?
So my energy journey started when I had the opportunity to be part of the capital expansion division at Eskom. I first got involved actually as a turbine centerline engineer with one of the return to service units at Komati, which was in 2006. So the objective was bringing back Komati online in 2009 lights. We had to bring Komati back online in 2009, having 9 units to the capacity of 1,000 megawatts. And that's where my journey started. My background is in the mechanical engineering space. I studied mechanical engineering, and I was then afforded the opportunity after relocating to Cape Town to work with Alstom Power Service as a turbine centerline engineer as well, but in the nuclear space. And that's where I got additional to my coal-fired power station space. I got experience in the nuclear space and worked at Koeberg Power Station. I then had a short stint at Airports Company of South Africa working on the mechanical systems. But during that time, I went to study project management and was afforded the opportunity to work with EDF as a project manager on their round 2 projects, which were the capacity of 107 megawatts of wind. which were going into financial close. And additional to that, we were obviously developing some projects in the Eastern Cape, and the development of those projects are things that I was also involved in. And yeah, so that gave me some renewable energy experience in the wind sector. And I worked for other IPPs in the solar space and was afforded the opportunity to oversee a project in the Free State that involved battery storage. And yeah, that's how my journey in the energy space has started. I've moved from coal to nuclear. I've had experience in oil and gas. I've had experience in some solar and wind. And now I am stuck in the space, which I thoroughly enjoy, and I'm leading the SASOL strategy for the electromobility space. And obviously, that is going to incorporate battery storage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also another seasoned expert in the energy sector, and a woman that I think a lot of women in the sector look to and look up to and draw some wisdom and guidance from your journey. And maybe just the final one from my side to you, Phemelo, what advice would you give to a young person looking to make a career?
Find yourself a mentor and find yourself a coach that aligns to your vision for your professional work, what you want to do, and also an understanding of your own personal circumstance. There are opportunities for development and growth in every avenue, in every area that you can explore, those networking opportunities. But I think it's quite essential that when you start your career, you start understanding yourself better, you start seeing how you can grow and develop in certain spaces and in certain spheres. And that will be essentially, hopefully, guided through your mentor and your coach. Obviously, those are two different roles. And it's quite important that we take some self-development time to understand what the role of the coach will be in my life, as well as the role of a mentor. I was fortunate enough to be involved in certain programs that gave mentoring opportunities. However, if I was afforded the opportunity to get a coach earlier on in my own life, I believe some things would have advanced or moved in a certain trajectory. And that's what advice that I'd give to any young professional. Try to find yourself a mentor and try to find yourself a coach, but do continue with your own continuous professional development.
Thank you very, very much for that, Phemelo. And that really brings us to the end of this episode of the Energy Careers segment, a segment of the Energy Conversations podcast. Thank you for our guests for sharing so openly and honestly about their energy journey and providing invaluable insights and gems. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for tuning into Energy Careers, where we explore the endless possibilities in the energy sector. Don't miss out on future episodes where we'll feature more inspiring journeys and insights on how to embark on your own energy career path. Subscribe now to the Energy Conversations podcast and unlock the door to exciting opportunities in the dynamic world of energy. Your journey begins here.